Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we are going to do some low immersion dyeing with some of our favorites. KoolAid! We are going to be using KoolAid powder in a rainbow of colors to sort of speckle on to the yarn, sort of like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and try to get sort of this fun speckled yarn using just the KoolAid powder. Now KoolAid is especially awesome because not only does it have food coloring, but it contains citric acid. So no other acid is really required for dyeing the yarn. I pre-soaked some Knit Picks Swish DK for about an hour. This yarn is 100% superwash merino, and I don't know if I've tried speckling this exact yarn with KoolAid before. Certainly I've speckled other superwash yarns, low immersion, in this exact steam pan, so I know what we're going to do today is going to work. The question's going to be like how well and how sharp will things be. The 6 flavors that we are using today are cherry, orange, lemonade, lemon lime, blue raspberry lemonade, and grape. The one thing to really note here is that the relative potency of these different colors varies. The cherry is probably the most potent in terms of the intensity or saturation of color. Next, maybe the grape, and I think the least saturated is probably the lemonade. This is something that we've seen in past videos that I've done playing around with these rainbows, but that's just something to sort of keep in mind as we proceed. And you know, I might decide that we need a second packet of some of these colors, but we're going to start off with one of each. I'm going to add some water to the pan, and I'm going to start with about 2 cups of water. To get some nice low immersion speckles, we really do want to keep sort of the water level low. We want some yarn sort of out of the surface, but if you can see right here, we still can see pan, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and add the other 2 cups, and it's possible that that might be a tad bit much. But what we'll do is we'll sort of speckle onto, ooh, I suppose I could do like stripes down, or maybe I should try to like focus on different segments, and instead of doing stripes I should do red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. If I do it that way, there could be some like cross bleeding. I'm not going to worry about that. I think that maybe we should go for it like that. Alright, I'm going to spread out the fiber. My steam pan is on 2 burners on my gas stove, and I'm going to have the heat on high until we start to see some bubbles, so we know we're getting nice and hot. Shimming it around and trying to keep things as sort of spread out as possible. We're bubbling, so I'm going to turn the heat down. Both burners, give it a little shimmy to get ready. And when I'm dealing with the KoolAid powders, this is something that is slightly overkill, but I am planning to wear a dust mask. I deal with a lot of powders and stuff filming these videos, and I really just don't want to inhale anything. So I made the conscious decision to start wearing some kind of breathing protection device, even when I'm dealing with food-safe powders. But unlike with acid dyes where I say you absolutely need to do this, in this case it's just a personal preference. Alright, I have pre-emptied out all the packets, and let's just start doing some speckles. And I guess the red speckles are coming over here. Now, again, I could use a salt shaker or something. My personal preference is to not. And you can see that the colors do spread out a tiny bit more where it hits water first versus yarn first. And there is like a tiny bit of spread, but overall, like for now, I am definitely seeing some really pretty discreet speckles, and I might go in like more to have like less of a speckled effect and more of sort of like a splotched subtle thing going on. Here's the yellow. This is the one where I feel like I'm least likely to see any speckles because it's just so pale. But oh, you guys, it smells so good. Oh, that's why, because I still have some other colors on my fingers. I was like, why am I seeing some red down there? It's because I'm not cleaning my fingers as I move. That is okay. We're just going to go for it. Here is our green. Ooh, I don't think I've tried speckling with the green yet. I'm expecting, ooh, I probably should have added some vinegar. This doesn't need vinegar because, as I said, there's citric acid in here. However, if I had added vinegar to this, then some of these colors might strike a little bit faster. So that is the consideration. Now, of these, the colors that I tend to try to speckle with the most are like the cherry and the grape. That's because they have sort of the biggest impact, but also the colors that are in there, the red number 40s and tend to strike faster, which means that you will see sort of more of it faster, which would give you sharper speckles. But I am sort of enjoying this like subtlety. Ooh, check out that grape. Woo-hoo. Yeah, I really like the tactile feel a lot. It is spreading in some places, but ooh, where the yarn is just a little bit outside the water, that is so sharp. Part of me thinks it would be fun to like layer all these sort of all over, but there's a little concern that it could end up looking a bit brown. I'm going to reduce the heat a little more, go and wash my fingers off, dry the gloves, and let this sit. Just sit for 5 minutes. I mean, 5 minutes are up, and let's just take a little peek. I'm not seeing any color that is not bound. So let's flip our yarn over. Hopefully, oh yeah, I'll be able to tell. Oops, hopefully I didn't splash into my powders. Should be able to tell where the various colors go. And again, I might end up flipping this another, I don't recommend doing this, but I know I can handle it. Okay, there we go. I do need to dry my hands so that way we can get going with side 2. These colors really, let's start with the yellow. These colors really only penetrate one layer. I'm going a bit heavier with our yellow. I have a feeling that this is the one where I will definitely need to go through it another time, especially since maybe I should spread that a bit. Here, by maybe having some sections that are a bit heavier, it'll get some of that yellow to kind of stand out. But you know, compared to the yellow, this green just is really, really vibrant. Yeah, but these little specks don't even go all the way through the one strand, so whoops. don't know if you notice, but I had a little move there, and I'm just sort of trying to capture that color on the yarn. That actually worked. How did that work? Okay. Our blue. I don't mind if some overlaps with that green a bit. See some reds over there. Don't mind also some overlaps with that purple. You know, I don't need total coverage. I think that you could go for fairly heavy coverage on this if you wanted. It's sort of like whatever you really want, which is pretty nice. Here is our grape, which just does a really great job. At this stage, I think I've got things less spread out than I had before, which means that there's a little bit more that's above the surface, which means that the opportunity to get some really sharp speckles is there. It also means, you see, like, I am capable of just sort of delivering a couple if I really want to. It also means I might be setting myself up for where I need to add things a bit heavier later on, because the side might feel like different from the other one. But again, I'm not super worried. And it's one of the fun things, honestly, of doing something by hand is just taking that time to really pay attention and having that control. Whoa! I don't know what color that was. That may have been some red. Huh. Or some like purple maybe? That is okay. That is okay. Alright, now with the yellow, I'm going back in with my other hand, because speckles or no speckles, you're not seeing much color on that yellow. So for that, I'm wanting to like up my ante a little bit. When I'm doing snow dyeing or something, the yellow really does sometimes get swallowed up, just because I think it is so much less potent than the other colors. But I will be back in 5 more minutes, and we'll take a look and see if we want to add color anywhere else onto this really fun yarn. It's been 5 minutes, and let's pick our yarn up by the nylon zip tie. Looks like all that color is in the yarn, but just to see if we see any glaring white patches. White patches aren't a problem usually, and it's more sort of like a personal preference. So I do see some area here around this tie in this red and purple area. And then of course that yellow area could use a little more too. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little more color on off camera. And then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. There we go. I just added a bit more color, and once again, gonna let it sit for 5 minutes, and then I might check to see if there's any other places I want to add color for. I'll do that off camera, but once I'm done adding speckles, I'm then going to turn off the heat and let this cool in the pan completely before we wash our yarn. Let's wash our KoolAid speckled yarn. We definitely have some really nice speckles here. You know, except for the yellow, which we've talked about. I ended up not adding any more dye after I signed off. I was pretty happy with the color coverage. But as I mentioned, if you want more color at any point on any of the colors, you could go back and add more dye. I think that if I wanted to see a little less spread on some of these colors, and I just added some clear dish soap, because there are some halos on the colors. Either you want to make sure that the water level is really, really low, or add some vinegar to the water. This had no vinegar in it at all, and we got these really sharp speckles. In huge part because there is a lot of citric acid in these dye mixtures. You don't need to add vinegar for them. But we weren't adding a ton of dye, and I don't think we even used one entire package of Kool-Aid. So if you want the speckles to be even sharper, I expect that having vinegar there in advance would help. But I'm going to keep washing this a handful more times because you've got all the other flavoring and stuff in there beyond just the food coloring and citric acid. Then we'll hang up the yarn to dry and come back and take a closer look. Here is the finished Kool-Aid dyed speckled rainbow-tastic yarn. I know in the end I was really heaping it on the yellow, but if we look closely, you can sort of see some speckles. Real, not maybe speckles, but certainly patches of color. There's definitely, it's not solid yellow, but it also doesn't have the same clear speckling that we get on the other 5 colors. Color penetration wise, this actually worked out fairly well. We did have to add color, a handful of times. We weren't able to do this just one side then the other because colors do strike really shallowly, but I really, really like the effect. Now that I'm playing with a lot more acid dyes, it's really apparent that Kool-Aid has a lot less pigment in it, but in some cases, it might actually be a little bit easier to work with. I think that the thing that's the closest comparison is mixing acid dye powder with citric acid, which, if you think about it, that's sort of what Kool-Aid is, except with food coloring and citric acid. But then you're able to get more spread out speckles. But what you don't see here that you see with a ton of acid dyes is these colors strike so fast you don't get a huge halo. And there's definitely some colors that while you might see some speckles there, you're also going to get a lot of wash of color over the rest of the yarn. There are just some dyes, Derma Fluorescent Fuchsia and Safety Orange, that you will not use for just creating a speckle like this because it'll just spread out a little too far, which is absolutely okay. But a reason why it's good to play around with different materials in different techniques to understand how they work. And then this helps you get a better sense of what to try later on if you want a specific look. And one of the benefits of just throwing dye at yarn and seeing what happens is that this attitude of, I wonder what will happen if I do X, Y, Z, allows me to be really, really excited with the results versus disappointed, because if I have something in my head and I don't quite hit that, that's when I start to feel disappointed. However, this is what I was going for today, and I think that I nailed it, so I'm pretty excited. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching this video. I've wanted to do this for a long time, and I'm not sure why I hadn't gotten to it yet, but I'm so excited with how this turned out, and I love Kool-Aid. That's where I started. That's the first thing I ever used to dye yarn. Okay, maybe not. Technically, I dyed yarn in 5th grade. I have no idea what types of dyes we used. But as a grown-up, the first time that I dyed yarn was with Kool-Aid, and so it's just always really, really fun to go back to it. Subscribe, like, tap that bell. Make sure you never miss a new video. In addition to the Dyepot Weekly series that is numbered, I have tons of other bonus videos, vlogs, leave no dye behind. There's a lot of content and you don't want to miss it when a new video comes out. make sure you check out the ChemKnits Patreon. Patreon is a platform where fans can connect with the creators that they enjoy, and you subscribe, and in return you get some really cool perks, like early access to new yarn dyeing videos, behind the scenes sneak peeks, advance notice of shop restocks, shoutouts, and more. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really do enjoy your comments and questions and feedback on these videos. So thank you so much for engaging with me and being part of the ChemKnits family.